schools in Illinois, and of course that's where Arnie Duncan was from Illinois. So they know what he's like. Well, now with Rahm Emanuel, because they have mayoral control of their schools, they have charter schools. So they have a brand new charter school that has moved into his neighborhood school, and they are offering free laptops to all their new 7th graders. Gee, who's going to stay at their regular public school? How are they going to be able to compete when the charter school is offering a free laptop to all these kids? He's just seeing education being degraded, all of their best and brightest getting pulled out. It's just crazy. I think it can happen here.
So do you want to warn Washington State about charter schools? What can you tell us about the charter school movement? And have you heard about all the innovative schools that Washington State has without bringing charter schools to our state?
I'm not familiar with the innovative schools movement.
We have over 243 innovative schools in Washington State that are not charter schools. And these innovative schools give parents choice. So one of the problems is that a lot of these corporations are using the word choice and making things like Stand for Children sound like very benign, proactive ways of helping students, which is getting a lot of parents to buy into this. But what really happens when Stand for Children comes into a district? Do you know?
Unfortunately, I don't know, but I have been wondering if they were going to come in kind of the wolves in sheep's clothing. If charter schools were already here and they're just calling themselves something else. If this option or specialization of a school. Anyways, that's also really disturbing. Thanks for letting me know.
You're welcome.
Yeah, wow.
Okay. And any last words on what you would like to tell us about Teach for America?
I think I can see why candidates are attracted to Teach for America, so this is not against the actual people who are signing up for Teach for America program, but I think that they don't realize how they're being used by a larger system. And for many of them, they're so young, they have no context. And they're worried about their future, so they're willing to do whatever it takes. It's a job to them, and they think that they're doing something altruistic without realizing that there's actually something extremely damaging that rides right along with that.
So it isn't that we're against the people that are joining Teach for America innocently, naively. We are against the idea of Teach for America being labeled as highly qualified when they are in fact not.
And the actual mission, which is to transform education. Well, one of the ways that they're doing is degrading the profession by putting in people who can teach with full rights and responsibilities with 5 weeks of training. That degrades it right there. Number 2, they only are asking them for a 2-year requirement. 2-year. Well, if we had a 2-year turnover in our school, imagine the destabilization that would be happening in our classrooms and in our schools. It is not acceptable. Most of them don't last. More than 70%, I think, leave after 2 years, 80% after 3 years. Very, very few go back and get their teaching certificate and actually stay in the classroom.
So what happens when those destabilizations actually take place in a classroom and in a school?
Oh my gosh, well, we know already that our kids, our students, especially in urban areas, but I think all over the country, and with this economic downturn, we're going to see it even more often, that they're transient. The kids are moving from school to school sometimes. It's so hard, or their parents are moving, and the only reason to keep their kids in a school is because of that relationship that they have with the staff. That's continuing. That may be their only thing. As a matter of fact, for myself, that was my experience moving to Washington State before I even got my teaching certificate, was that I wanted my kids to stay in the same school, even though we were struggling and we had to move from place to place around the city. We got boundary exemptions so that our kids could continue to go to the same school because we felt that was so important for them to have that continuity in their lives when their parents were struggling with some job insecurity and losing jobs and layoffs. So we had a whole string of that happening in my family, and really it wasn't until fairly recently that we've been in the same place, the same living arrangement, the same address for 8 years now.
So how does a relationship that a teacher builds over time with students impact their learning?
Oh my gosh, that is the number one factor. The relationship, especially elementary, but I think students all over, if they think back, anybody thinks back on who were the teachers that profoundly affected them, it was the relationship that they had with that teacher. It was the trust that was developed, it was that continuity and that warmth, and yes, it's information, yes, it's expertise, it's all those things, but it is that relationship, one-on-one, that you have with your students that is the greatest measure of their success, and that their learning is actually going to take place.
So if Teach for America teachers are supposedly the faux teachers that we're talking about, trained for 5 weeks, do you think that they're going to be able to make that kind of difference with their students?
No way. I remember my first year of teaching. It was insane. Even after 2 years of rigorous study and a master's in teaching program from the University of Washington, even after included in that almost a whole year of working in the schools and having relationships with students, when I got my own classroom, that learning curve was still very, very steep. And I spent probably 12 to 16 hours a day working on my lesson plans and getting all that stuff done. It is huge. And how could I do that with 5 weeks? It really is kind of insane.
So what would you like to tell Apple about their iPad for TFAs? What's your message to Apple and other organizations, corporations that are supporting TFA?
I think they're really wasting the resources. I think they are dumping good money down the drain, and it really brings into question how much does Apple support education? Because this is not supporting education. If they were going to just send them to schools that were in need, I'd be behind it 100%. I'd be telling all my parents, please donate your iPads. That's awesome. We would be doing fundraisers. Our PTA would be doing stuff like that. There's no way I can get behind this when it is going for very dubious reasons. And I think that the public is being duped, thinking that it's some altruistic thing. It's a charitable thing. It's not.
What would you like the people to do about the philanthropirates that are
philanthropirates, I like that.
that are plundering our public schools?
One, I think we really need to daylight it. We need to bring all this stuff out in the open and be talking about it. Again, one-to-one with people, and somehow get this message out. I think people, general public, is going to be very interested in this. They're very curious. They want to know. It's probably people's number one concern, besides having a job,